Welcome to Radio Free Will, a podcast for sovereign people. I'm your host, George McCullough, and we're coming at you live and direct from Greekstown, New Jersey. Once again, we're here with Michelle Mockers, artist, activist, and philosopher. Michelle, just started 2020.
We are in a new year.
Yeah. How's it feel?
It feels very good. We must now, one thing, we must become a little more precise than we were so far.
What, on the podcast?
Yeah.
That means
because we said a lot of things which are, I suppose, all true, of course. But we must, if you want, today a little more precise to where we are going and what we want to do.
What is it that we want to do?
Idea for the very first, it's very simple. For the very, very first time, I don't talk about myself, but for the very, very first time, since the caveman, who is the first one to show that art is part of human nature, when he put his hand on the wall of the cavern, of the cave over there. Since that time, it is the very, very first time that art, precisely art, which is in your life, anywhere, all the time in your life, has never been expressed as a philosophy. It is the very first time that we express it as a philosophy that could eventually be the goal, if you want, for all humanity. Simple. It's very simple, huh? No more than that.
And that philosophy is?
And that philosophy is the philosophy of the arts, means that we, if you want to explain how you can go from the inspiration to make a painting. I am a painter, I talk painting, I could talk music or whatever, but I talk painting. The inspiration, you have the inspiration on one side, and the other side you have the tools, the brushes, the colors, whatever it is. You put those two things together and you create a piece of art. And that piece of art answers to some rules, if I can say so, automatic, normal rules. So we are defining those rules, that type of a contradiction between something completely abstract and something completely figurative, and we say there is no contradiction into that. So the word manipulates that. The contradiction is very simple. You suppress one of the two contradictory, and you have a solution. The proletariat will suppress the bourgeoisie, and we will have the classless society. Except for one thing, Mr. Marx has never been able to say what would become of the classless society. And what we have today, we have the exact reverse of a classless society. One man elected for life to direct the country. That's exactly a king of the Middle Ages. So that's the communist part of, if you want, of the world. The other one, which is more or less capitalist, and we don't go into history, because if we go into history, it's capitalism which created the material conditions for the existence of communism. Capitalism was so mistreating the people that the people turned to something else, which were a promise for the future communism. No, we are dealing with capitalism, and capitalism is not dealing the right way. You have two things. Let's take our country as an example, not to go to the whole world actually. The America is made of two contradictory things that they do not assemble it, but they manipulate everyone in his own way. The way one is society, with the laws of society, to walk on the sidewalk and blah, blah, and blah, blah. And the other one, which is the absolute contradiction of you don't kill, you are a respectable citizen, and blah, blah, blah. The other one is the freedom of enterprise. You can kill the competition, because like that you will have the job of the competition. So that is an absolute contradiction which is not absolutely not taken in care of by something which everybody in America salutes, the Constitution. In the Constitution, you have not one single word about economy. It's just mechanical, if you want. It's the mechanics for a government, how you elect the representative and so and so. But it is the only word of economy of the Constitution is welfare of the people. That's it. It doesn't go anywhere else, doesn't say what is the welfare of the people and how you realize the welfare of the people. In other words, it's the freedom of enterprise. And you become rich, and when you are rich, you can eventually influence the politics. And it is what happens.
And that's what we're seeing today.
Absolutely. Now, I want you to read something if you agree with me. I am sorry to ask you that. My eyes are really, since I broke my head, my eyes are really deficient. I really would like you to read just a small passage here, not telling us from where it is or when it comes from.
All right, we're going to check out my reading skills.
Yes, okay, you are on.
So this quote that you want me to read, do you want to explain anything about it, or?
No, not now. Read it first.
Okay. When I consider any social system that prevails in the modern world, I can't, so help me God, see anything but a conspiracy of the rich to advance their own interest under the pretext of organizing society. They think of all sorts of tricks and dodges for the keeping of their ill-gotten gains, and then by exploiting the poor by buying their labor as cheaply as possible. Once the rich have decided that these tricks and dodges shall be officially recognized by society, in which the poor, as well as the rich, they acquire the force of law. Thus, the unscrupulous minority is led by an insatiable greed to monopolize what would be enough to supply the needs of the whole population.
Okay.
Why do you like that quote so much?
No. We are going to talk about the quotes. But this is what is. This is what is today. It's exactly the same thing. Change a little the world to modernize it. But it is exactly what happens today.
Sounds like America to me.
It sounds like America to you. It has been written in 1516, I believe, or something, 16 or 17, by Thomas More in Utopia. Means you see that in 500 or 600 years, you can say that the society is exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing that goes on. People with money want more money, and wanting more money eventually oppresses those who have not money to work for them. It has not changed at all, my dear. When you look at the government, it's not a government of people who have nothing at all. It's a government which is more or less you receive $1 million to be elected. That is not at all democracy and regular. And the people with no money have absolutely no right in the government. It does not change. 1500 or 2000, exactly the same thing. Exactly.
So as a society, we have not advanced since then.
We have not advanced, my dear. Since the beginning, we have not advanced precisely because there is no, if you want, philosophy to advance. The only one who tried to advance were, we must say it, were the communists. You know, when Karl Marx was at the time where the owners of machine, steam machine, were producing factories that were also producing towns, which were so disgusting, those towns, they were, number one, the workers were underpaid. They had always something to pay because they did always something wrong. And beside that, they were unpaid. And they were working, some of them were working 12 hours a day for 6 days a week, my dear. You had people living 6 in the same bed, 3 at lunch, before lunch and 3 after lunch. So we created communism, and we did not change the way the people with money. Nothing changed. You know very well that today in America, 1% plus 10% own practically 50% of all the assets of the country. So they have the power. If you have the money, you have the power. You can buy what you want, and you can buy the election also.
So who would you want to change first? Rich people or poor people?
Neither. I mean, if you make a painting, my dear, if you make a painting, let's say, to go into a frame. Let's imagine that we make a painting to go into a frame. You don't paint out of the frame, on top of the frame, or under the frame. We want a society which will be a society. You cannot, like the communist or eventually even the socialist, limited the power of every man. Every man has to realize himself, but you must put a limit on what is possible. You must put a limit on the money that one can make, and you must put limit on the poverty that some people are. Some people don't have enough to have dinner. You have kids who go to school without a dinner. So how can you imagine that?
And what would you say to people that are saying that, oh, you're trying to limit my freedom?
No. Depends what you call. No. Depends what you call.
Because that's going to be the first thing that they
The-
say to you.
Yeah, of course. But what is freedom exactly? We have to define exactly what is freedom. Where start freedom? Start freedom in the mind, or start freedom on your pocket? What is the real freedom? Because the people who say that is the people of their pockets. That's it. We can buy this, we can buy that. We have an automobile bigger. It's wonderful. We know very well that oil is limited. Oil is limited. We know that. And you have never seen so bigger automobile in America. Everybody wants a big automobile. For what? And some say, because the kids more precious, it's more dangerous for them to go to school. When you don't sell a tank, new tanks, we should say new tanks without the gun, but new tanks to go to school. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely anti-human thinking. Those automobiles are automobile of imbecility. There is no other words, because we have limits. We know that oil does not redo itself. When we will have exhausted all the oil, there will be no more oil. Or then they will tell you that there will be some other things, electric, blah, 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 blah. Forgetting one thing, forgetting that instead of 5 million people, you will have 15 million people, and that you will have to provide all those people with to eat, to work, and how do you do that? Especially when artificial intelligence and robots are going to make the job, limiting the number of people working with their hands. So how do you solve all that? Is that once more, is that what you have in your pocket or in your mind? What is more important?
Well, I would say if you have freedom of the mind, that is the most important.
Absolutely. But freedom of the mind, my dear, freedom of the mind is something that in our America we don't even have. When you think that to go to school or to finish studies, you have to borrow money that you will make 20 years to pay. How can a government can even consider democracy when you don't even educate the young people to become real citizens, able to think about what they are doing? That's completely crazy. There are a certain number of crazy things. You are talking about the money. Something came through my mind. I should maybe not say it, but something came through my mind. That money is a problem. Which is more important, the mind or the pocket?
The mind.
The mind. So, my dear, America solved a very fantastic problem, a biblical problem that lasted for thousands of years. You cannot serve God and money at the same time. So here on the 33,000, something like that, churches where people go on Sunday or Saturday to listen that, beautiful this, beautiful that, beautiful that. Finally, what happens is that you can serve two masters at the same time. You put the name of God on the banknotes. So each time you have a banknote, you thank God. So the more banknotes, the more thank to God. In other words, you have absolutely solved a problem that for centuries has bothered everybody, that you cannot serve two masters at the same time. In America, you can serve two masters at the same time. It's very nice to be very rich, because you are nice and rich in your church or in your whatever. And you can, come on.
But I still haven't heard you address the problem of limiting people's freedom by limiting how much they can acquire.
No, you don't limit freedom by limiting how much you can acquire. So we have to determine exactly what is freedom. Is freedom because you can buy anything you want? That's freedom? That's not freedom, my dear. But you are basically telling me that some people can have as much money as they want because they can buy as much freedom as they want. That's not true. You can limit. It would be possible, if you want, to limit the gain of people. Over a certain limit, that's it. It goes to the Commonwealth. You can be the richest of that part. I don't say that there will not be people richer than other people. Yes, because that's normal. If you want, you have people with more initiative, you have people with more strength, whatever it is, and you must let those people express themselves. Like that, they will feel good and happy. But you can limit what they obtain. You can limit that. You say above that, over. You give that to the Commonwealth.
And what about people that will abuse the system and then just
How can you
collect
abuse
money?
the system?
No, somebody who doesn't want to work but still collects a paycheck. There are people that try to work the system.
How can you? What can you do with the system if, for example, you have a limit on the most and a limit on the less?
Right.
Okay, and you forget a certain number of things that we are not talking about, like healthcare, for example. Healthcare in America is absolutely incredible. And now you don't believe it. You absolutely don't believe it. But it is. So that also has to be fixed, definitively fixed. I have a guy who told me with money, he said, "Oh, I don't want to pay. If it was a tax, I don't want to pay for those who are sick and I am not sick." He doesn't know if he is not sick in the future. How can he know that beside that? And, it's a no participation to the community. It's not a community, once more. If you look in the dictionary, community is made of interdependent people. And we transform those interdependent people, on active people against each other.
And so we're going to achieve this in 2020.
Huh?
We're going to achieve all this in 2020.
Yeah. Come on. No. What we want, and what says the dialectic of the arts, is that if you can make a painting, the painting of an idea, at the same time you can make the painting of a society. You can make the painting of a society because what is so far considered as contradiction or things that contradict each other are not. They are correlative. They need each other to become something. That's the the biggest mistake of communism, to say man has no conscience. He is not living by his conscience, but by his way of living. That's how man lives, which is completely stupid. The communist for that is stupid. And the other one, the capitalist, is also stupid because it's only the people. You have the people with too much money and kids who do not even have the education and people who do not even have to eat. And that is not acceptable. And we have to have a society which, as a painting, will limit the thing. You can say what is a painting? You can talk about Picasso, who was the big painter of the 20th century, and Picasso destroyed everything. He even destroyed paintings, saying, "I put the red where I should not put the red, or I should put the blue." He made it in purpose, and he is the biggest painter because he is, in one way, if you want, arts are the reflection of a civilization. The art of the 200th century of Greece, for example, created absolutely everything: poetry, theater, drama, sculpture, architecture. They created everything in 200 years and disappeared. Absolutely, they disappeared. So,
But their artwork still lives on.
exactly, and we can see the past civilization through the piece of art that remains. The ruins of this, of that, what remains, we can read, we can still read those civilizations. And it's where I say art is part of civilization. All what you wear has been made by this artist for that, this artist for that. That makes the nice overcoat, the nice. I say art is permanently, whatever you do, your house, you want the color, anything. Art is in your life. But art is not in your political life. And I want to put art as a philosophy, once more, able to solve the problem and to limit the problems, which is very, very important, to limit. Allows men to realize themselves, but not allows men to become over-powerful by money.
Well, speaking of art, you've produced some political cartoons that we're going to take a look at.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, people that are listening to this on the podcast won't see them, but you can find these you can find this podcast on YouTube or on Vimeo, or you would send these cartoons to them.
Yeah, if they ask for.
If they ask for them, and
Yeah.
how would they get them?
Yeah.
How would they?
Depends on how they want them. You can give them printed or by email.
Okay, and how by email? What's the address?
My address email is Michel Mokers, one word. Michel Mokers, one word, at gmail.com.
All right, and we'll repeat that address again at the end of the program.
Yeah.
So can we take a look at the first one?
Yeah.
You're ready to explain them?
Go ahead.
All right, what are we seeing here?
We've seen the exact story of what you read in the beginning. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. From one president to the next president, you always have all the promises in the world, and basically nothing of those promises happens. Nothing happens. So I made a drawing where, if you want, the promises are represented by a little rabbit, which is nobody rabbit.
The rabbits is the promises of the politician.
Exactly. And it goes from it goes from one generation to another generation to another generation, because you read a text of 1500, and so it's why I put no head on the president, because it's a president today, tomorrow morning it will be another one, day after tomorrow it will be another one, and so and so. So I put no head, but the promise is always exactly the same.
And what's the caption underneath the cartoon?
Please read it.
The Constitution does not define it, but out of his hat of a magician, every president offers the people the constitutional welfare of the people. Did I read that right?
Yeah, you read it here, because once more, I repeat myself, but the only positive things that about the welfare of the people, how the people behave, are those three words in the Constitution: welfare of the people, nothing else. Let me tell you something about the Constitution, where we are at the Constitution. Mr. Jefferson himself wrote, and I have the letter, wrote that the Constitution should be rewritten by every generation according to its needs. We have not rewritten the Constitution since, 300 years? Absolutely not following our needs, because the Constitution doesn't care for 1 second about the needs, care about the political needs, but not the needs.
And would you be willing to write a new constitution for us?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, we're going to put them to work. 2020. I want this new constitution written. And the first
No.
rule in the constitution would be?
Will be that everybody has enough to eat and not too much to eat. That's the basic thing. Then after that, you have all the liberty of freedom. You can do what you want. Man needs a liberty. What is wrong, for example, with communism is that it has no liberty. You have to have liberty of achieving yourself. You will not be happy as long as do not realize something of yourself. It's absolutely impossible. Otherwise, you are in a caserne, you are a soldier, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I did that, but you don't need to think. You don't need to think. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But that is not life, my dear. That is not life. You must enjoy life. And when I say something else. I say that the work that is going to make by robots can be replaced by interesting things like sailing, horse riding, concerts, or literature, whatever it is. We can make of the people who will have plenty of time, we can make people who will enjoy being people and able to think. We are not able to think today. You are not able to think. You have the taxes that come back, the this, the that, the that. You have tomorrow morning. We have the elections, which is always the same thing. Even if we have some supposedly socialists, it's very good because it's very good to have some socialists like that because they open the door for us. In some ways, they open the door for us. They cannot succeed because you cannot be a socialist inside of a political party. That does not exist.
I got to say that I think it was Finland this week announced that the official work week will be 4 days.
Yeah, but
only 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Will be a full day's work.
But that is not philosophy, my dear. That is not. Yeah, but
Talking to the mic.
Yeah, but that is not philosophy. That's just practical little thing that will make him eventually elected. But that does not. That does not fill up the whole thing that has to be filled up. A new way of thinking the world. It's the same way of thinking the world, saying, oh, you work a little too much, we are going to work too much, the robots will do your job, blah, 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 blah. But that is purely material thing. It does not address the mind, the people who talk about the mind. We need a new philosophy. That is not a new philosophy. It's some improvement on the situation. That's it. That doesn't go. So they call that socialist if they want. They can call it anything they want. It's just improvement on an existing society. We propose something else. We propose to completely think, not only our society, but outside society. We propose a dialectic for the world, for the whole world. I don't know if it will happen or if I am a dreamer myself, but it is the reality that, in fact, those progress, 4 hours instead of 7 hours, that doesn't mean anything at all, intellectually speaking. Practically speaking, it's beautiful, and I hope it can happen, but that does not fill up the mind. That does not fill up the mind. It fills up the body and the way of making your week and so. No more.
Should we go to the next cartoon?
We can go to the next part. I don't.
It's on the opposite side.
The worst sign of the thing is that I don't remember, my dear.
All right, here we go. Look.
Oh yeah.
So what are you trying to say here?
I'm trying to say what I was saying in other words. I am trying to say it's a quotation of Paul Valéry, who is a very well-known French writer. But it means that you have a lot of promising absolutely everything with big gesture of you welcome, but hey, that's it. Knowing beside that, knowing that very, very few of it can eventually be realized.
And the quote is, politics is the art of preventing people from taking part in the affairs which properly concern them? And
Yeah,
who's
because
that a quote from?
yeah, because you are for nothing. The basic people in the way the government is now have absolutely nothing to say in the government and in the government. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It's people elected, and people elected are people who are not, basically without no money at all, who represent the people with no money, not at all. So, in fact, the government many times is a camouflage of the reality. They don't tell you the reality. They tell you things that you want to hear or that explain this or explain that, but you will never know what is the reality. I'm sure that there is a lot of things you would be very surprised if you knew everything.
Oh, but it's probably a horror story if I knew everything.
No, that will be absolutely
But I do
awful.
want to know everything. I want to know the truth about things.
No, because beside that, today, the electronics make in such a way that you are not talking with me here and me with you. We are both together, naked in the middle of the street over there talking. They can hear absolutely everything we say, everything you publish, absolutely everything. And that is the freedom of today.
And you're not afraid of them hearing what you have to say?
Absolutely not, because if nobody says it, it will never be said, and eventually nothing will happen. No, if enough people, we have, and that's where I want to be very precise. We are trying to do something where all the people with, let's say, basically no money, or small assets, which is the big majority in America, and we are talking about America right now. There's the big majority of America is a majority with no money. Let's put it that way, with no money, no power, no nothing at all. But what we want to do is precisely that those people should be listened to. When you have the election, it's very nice. 50% of the people don't vote. Why those people don't vote? Because as I have said or listened a lot of times, why to vote? It will change absolutely nothing. Most people believe that voting will change absolutely nothing. Voting with your $10 against Mr. So-and-so, we can give $500,000. What do you represent? What are you representing? So that is something that has absolutely to be changed, my dear. The election has not to be something where there is any private funding accepted.
No money in politics.
No money in politics. Absolutely no money. The government, it has been like that in Europe, in several countries. The government pays the advertising for all existing party. Here in America, you have basically two parties, Republican and Democrat. Forget the rest of it, even if it's a little manifestation once in a while. But basically, you have only two parties who monopolize the whole thing. So the thing would be that the government would provide the advertising for all existing party. You can say that you are an existing party. I don't ask you to demonstrate that. But the condition is that at the end, if you do not have, I believe it was basically in Europe, 6% of the population, you're obliged to pay back all the advertising.
Now, in the Democratic primary, there are two billionaires that are running to be the nominee.
Of course, come on.
What would you say about them if they go, well, we don't want the government money, we just want to spend our own money? Would you say that they have to take the government money?
Yeah, if it's, of course, come on.
If they're running for...
Why? You see,
but the Democratic primary is a private... it's a private thing. So they can run their party the way they see fit, correct?
Yeah. So, the people with the money, plus they can advertise as
You're
much
just
as,
talking about the general elections.
Yeah, the general people with the money, they can buy the I don't know, the TV. If you have enough money to buy the TV, you can buy the TV. We cannot buy the TV. We don't have the money. I have absolutely no money at all. You don't have no money to buy the TV. Come on, what are you talking about? When you have people, we can buy the TV.
Should we accept political advertising on Radio Free Will?
Of course.
We should on our podcast.
Yeah, of course. Why not? No, come on. If no,
No, we don't. We're
excuse
not
me.
going to. We're not endorsing any candidates.
Excuse me.
Except for
We have
Tulsi,
to have serious things, huh? Otherwise, it's just a joke. Forget it. But if some people are coming to us saying this or this or that, we must eventually listen to them and answer them or whatever. We must absolutely. Otherwise, we are not a free people. We have to give the liberty of people to express their opinion, even if we disagree. We can tell them that we disagree and give the reason why we disagree, but we must give them the possibility of doing it. That is freedom, my dear. And that's what does not exist in the American policy, freedom.
Okay, so we're got about 8 minutes left in this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can get through a couple more of these political cartoons that you've done.
Which is
Mark Twain is the next one.
you know,
What do you have here? Suppose you were an idiot, and suppose you were a member of Congress.
said by Mark Twain, huh?
Yeah. So what do you,
We quote Mark Twain because Mark Twain was maybe eventually saying a part of the truth, because, hey, my dear, money doesn't mean that you are intelligent.
Are you saying that all members of Congress are idiots?
No, but you can.
Or Mark Twain can?
Mark Twain can say that, absolutely. Because once more, the money doesn't prove intelligence. You can have the intelligence to get money. That doesn't mean that you have the intelligence, doesn't mean that you have the knowledge or you have enough to be somebody who can give ideas about the whole world. Not at all. You can be a very, very successful money man and be an idiot. That I believe that.
Do you think acquiring money and power is the main reason why people become elected officials?
Oh no! But
What is
there
their
all what you
motivation?
don't know. There is all what we don't know, my dear. Who you don't know who pays who. You know you have no idea of how the money goes. To answer your question, we should be able to have a perfect, understanding of where the money goes, who pays what, and what pays what, and how Mr. So-and-so can pay for his thing. You have to have all that. When we have all that, then we can have a clear idea of what's going on. So far, you have no idea of what is going on. Nobody tells, oh, I have received $500,000 to be elected. No one said that.
So in the political dialectic, would you oppose a rule or support a rule that made all financial statements open to the public?
Absolutely. The public has to know, my dear.
Even for private citizens?
My dear, the public, you with no money, you pay taxes, you pay the health care, you pay everything. So you are entitled to know what the government is exactly doing, asking you that, or doing with you the money. You have to have the right to do that, and that we don't have.
What about a private citizen? Like, would you have the right to look at my financial statements?
Oh no, no, don't push.
What about billionaires?
No, we don't.
Corporations.
No. You don't ask how they were billionaire. That's it.
Well, then they could lie and say they're not a billionaire.
No, my dear.
Because you need to be able to find out if they actually are or not.
Very simple. Mr. de Gaulle, which I didn't like particularly, but Mr. de Gaulle, because I was an officer, Mr. de Gaulle at the end of the war made something very smart. You know that some people during the war made a lot of money with the communicating with the German or black market, a lot of money. So one morning, you get up and say, hey, if you want some money, you go to the bank and you change your money. No more than no more than that. That's it. No more than X. That's it. The rest can go in the garbage. And he did. They did. I was obliged to go to the bank to have a new banknote. So it's very easy to limit. It's very easy to limit.
And it worked in France.
Yeah, it can work anywhere, my dear, because even if it's a bank account, the bank account is here. You cannot.
And what were people saying at the time?
You cannot say anything at all. You are obliged to do it, otherwise you don't have any money to pay for your lunch.
All right, let's see if we can squeeze one more cartoon in, folks. There's a lot of these cartoons. We hope to get through them.
Oh, the next one is a big one. Huh?
All right, what are we seeing here?
Ay, ay, ay.
All year long, the Great American.
You know, it's a book of it's not a book where you follow the chapter and so. It jumped from one thing to another one, huh? As it came to my mind from one thing to another one. So there is eventually no following between two stories. But this one is the.
Do you want to describe it for people that are listening on the radio?
Yeah, but you should read that you should read it to the people. I cannot read it.
All year long, the Great American Circus presents the incredible
Bicephalous.
Bicephalous, the two-headed party, in his magnificent blah-blahs for the remarkably uneducated citizens. With all your favorite clowns, trapeze artists, contortionists, magicians, trainers for all types of political animals to create the illusion of the seriousness of the world for the rest of the world. And what inspired this? It's one of your more ambitious drawings, I must say.
Because I don't believe for one second in few things that the government said. You never know. You never know exactly what is in the mind of the government. You never know if Mr. Roosevelt wanted or did not wanted the war. You do not know about the story of the West Center, the old center. You don't know the truth which is under anything at all. So for me, if you want, as long as you do not tell the exact truth, and all those people don't tell you the exact truth, they're clowns.
Let me ask, Michel, are you an anarchist?
No.
And why not?
No, because anarchy means what? No law.
No government.
No. You have to have a government, otherwise nothing will function. The government should be not a question of personalities. You are not elected because you are person. A government should be, in our case, should be to in fact realize the philosophy of the arts, to realize d'une manière pratique the philosophy of the arts. But the president is not a president with his own ideas to lead everything. He has to realize what is the idea of the basic idea of the philosophy of the arts. So it's why you cannot be completely an anarchist. It's very nice, but you have to have a certain regulation of things. Otherwise, if you cannot know on the right side of the road, how can you drive? And
or you need stop signs at the street corners.
Yeah, exactly. You need a minimum of order that people have to follow to be able to live together. Otherwise, it's a mess.
All right, we're coming to the end of our program. Let's review how people, and especially people that are listening on the radio, they might want to get a copy of your cartoon book. And how can they do that?
They can do that basically on calling me if they want it printed at Michel Mokas, one word, at Gmail, or they can go into no-pennies.org.
No, .com.
.com, not .org.
No-pennies.org.
.com. We have the three of them, but nevertheless.
All right, folks. That's it for today's show. I think we went a little bit long, but it was
If we don't get them completely.
it was entertaining nonetheless. Thank you, Michel, for spending this afternoon with me. And
George, I hope
look
that we
forward
go
to
a little
many
more
more.
than enjoying ourselves.
Listen again next week for the next episode.
Absolutely.